It is the calm before the storm. Paul Fontaine and Double G here, ready to talk about the big weekend that we have planned for Saturday night. Actually, Saturday day and Saturday night. I forgot. I asked you. I asked you? I know I asked LaRocca what his plans were. What?
Yeah. I surprised you because my first priority is the Jays. So
That's right.
I'm gonna watch the Jays game and then I'll get to the wrestling and and SmackDown from the night before and there is no UFC. I think I said there was a UFC, but they actually got this weekend off, thank God. So that actually an AEW show, as long as it is, it's less time than a UFC show most of the time. So this weekend actually won't be too bad for me.
And you're completely fine with but are you watching the AEW pay-per-view? Is that the goal?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm going to get the bundle because I have the VPN and Triller and all that. So I think they're offering like the next two shows for like $35, like total. So, like I think that might have something to do with these numbers that they're getting to. But we won't talk about that. But yeah, so I'll order that, sight unseen, for $35. I know it's going to be worth it for two AEW pay-per-views. I mean,
is this a VPN situation? Like, of course, we've been through this piracy scenario with all of the major sports pay-per-views. UFC, it probably tanked their business somewhat, though they made out with the Paramount.
Well, that one's different because that's just flat out stealing. Like VPN.
Okay, but still, I'm sure AEW would want you to pay your $50 or $40 to Max. That's how they get paid.
Sure.
They're these international numbers that get juiced by Americans and Canadians and other things because they're cheaper. That I'm sure that's not great for their accounting to know where all the stuff is
but I
coming
mean, the alternative may be that you don't get the show. So at least they're getting something. Like there's been more than one where I would not have bought it at full price. So, and I know other people that feel the same way. And I remember ROH when they used to have their shows on and they were charging for them. Like I went in with our friend Preet. We would order them together and share a password. There's no way either one of us was paying full price, but if we could each pay half, then we would do that. So
yeah, I think that happens a lot too, sharing of password. But that's the other thing that HBO Max wants to crack down on is the password sharing.
That might hurt them. That might hurt them, but I don't think we're ever going to get those Max pay-per-view numbers anyways. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Dave thinks he's going to get them.
Really?
Well, actually, I don't think if he thinks he's going to get them, but he's 100% sure that Tony's going to get them.
So he's going to get the pay-per-view numbers, but he can't get the TV viewership numbers
because there's a revenue split involved.
Yeah.
So from an accounting perspective, they're going to get a check from HBO.
I still think that those numbers, the reason they don't want them out is because they're not as big as people think they are.
Well, that is definitely part of it. That is one part of it. But the other part of it is if they don't have to make the data public, it helps them in their leverage of what they pay these people.
Did you see that article that came out? I think it was late last week from Adweek. Where we are going to get Max numbers apparently starting next week, or not next week, next year, I should say.
Is that because of the new Nielsen stuff?
Yeah. They reached a deal with WBD. I'll send you the article. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yes, you should just share it in the Discord.
I will.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess let's talk about these shows and the way we don't need to preview them. Everyone's going to do their preview. Yeah. We know the main matches now. And I guess what I'm interested in knowing from you, and I actually kind of think I know your answer to this, because you watch all the television for both companies. So it's not like you are pro one company over another, which is most of the discussion these days, which is why it's pretty frustrating. But if you were, let's say if I put a gun to your head and I said, you cannot watch both of these shows, you're only watching one. What is the more interesting show for you? I don't even really care about which one you think is going to be better, because that is also subjective based on your wrestling fandom. But if you could only watch one and the other one, you just could not watch it, like what interests you more between these two shows?
Okay. So what interests me more is the stuff on the WWE show. But if you told me I could only watch one show, I might choose the AEW show, if only because I could probably go back later and just find out what happened on the WWE show and see highlights on YouTube and stuff. But if we're talking about which one am I most looking forward to and which one do I want to see the most, that would be the WWE show, like this time. And that's not usually the case. There's many of these WWE shows that if I had to pay for them, I would skip them for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
This one I definitely would have paid for, like to a point. Like I don't know if I'd pay $50. Like that's a lot of money, for what WWE gives you, but I might, because this feels almost like a WrestleMania. Like not quite a WrestleMania, but the top matches are pretty big. We're getting the return of Brock, which if you can put aside the fact that, do we really want to see Brock?
It might be a stay away for folks. Just
It
the
might.
fact that he's on
It
the
might.
card. Probably not a lot of people, but definitely some.
We're getting John Cena's last match. We're getting this Becky and AJ. I'll just say that. Like Punk and
John
Rollins.
Cena's last match for not his last match.
No, one of his last matches.
Yeah.
One of his last matches. Yeah, like I think he's got like probably two more after this, I would guess. But yeah, so I mean, those are the big draws, and then there's a bunch of other stuff too. Like for the wrestling fans, like Io and Stephanie is gonna be great, and Cody and Drew. It was gonna, Usos reuniting. That's fun. So there's a lot of like cool stuff on this show, and it does feel special. Where the other show, like it's going to be great wrestling, really, really great wrestling, probably, but it also feels like it's just been thrown together. And other than the Edge and Christian match, nothing else on this show feels even remotely special.
Is this let's really, really, really sell a pay-per-view to the sickos? Is that what this show is?
Maybe, like, and then with the gimmicks, like it's crazy how many like gimmicks there are.
The thing about the gimmicks is that the gimmicks, if you go back to our early discussions about AEW and what we wanted AEW to be, one of those things was, let's not do all of these crazy gimmick matches, multi-person matches that are there simply to avoid finishes. Like, let's really treat this a little bit more like a sport. Those were our early discussions about AEW. But I think what AEW, or what Tony Khan realized, is the more mayhem he can get out of stuff is what the fans like, and they don't actually care about the sport aspect in the sense. They just want to see the action and the craziness, and they want to, send a gift to friends going like, look at this crazy thing that you don't see on WWE. Because otherwise, like, I look at that stuff, and the reason why that shows a little bit of a turnoff to me is because it's going to be all the same spots, the same moves, the same high spots, the same rhythm of the matches. Like it's all just going to be, to me at least, outside of I think the main event will be good, and I think they'll be smart enough to slow it down a little bit. I think the Edge and Christian match will be a very smart match as well. So those will be kind of
very long, I bet.
Yeah, those will be the ones that are a little bit on the other side, and those are the matches that I'm interested in seeing most. But my goodness,
it's funny is you brought that up, and I've been watching some of the early Dynamites, like whenever I have free time, usually like late at night on a like Sunday or something. I'll throw in an old Dynamite, and they would have these one-on-one matches, and even on the pay-per-views, and it would be like Hangman Page against Pac, and you're like, I don't know who's going to win this.
Yeah.
Like and somebody would win. Like it wasn't like a DQ. It wasn't, and occasionally they did a draw, but it was like they do these one-on-one matches. And then I'm reading the Observers, and a lot of the complaints about WWE at the time were, well, they do a pay-per-view, and then the next day after the pay-per-view, you get the world champion come out and they do an interview, and then the 4 challengers come out and they all do interviews, and then the general manager makes a match, between all 4 guys fighting for a title shot, or he books a 5-way between the champion and those 4. The only difference now is Tony waits until the week before the pay-per-view to do it, but it's like, we've got two straight. We've got like the unified title that has 3 people wrestling qualifying matches to get into a match at the pay-per-view, which they're calling a tournament. And Okada has to wrestle for a shot at his own belt. And then we also have the tag team titles where 4 teams are wrestling, but only 3 of them have to qualify, and the champs actually get in on that one. But it's the exact same thing. And then one's going to be a ladder match, but then the other one is the 3-way, so there's no DQ.
Yeah, exactly.
Except it's under intertash or the whatever rules.
Continental rules, yep.
So maybe there is a DQ. Who knows? We won't know.
It's uncertain, and
Tony won't answer the question. And then after the pay-per-view, we're back. We'll be back to Continental titles next time.
Like I can't be too hard on them. I can't be too hard on the idea that he just wants to throw stuff that he thinks his audience is going to lean into that is a little bit of anti what WWE is going to do. But I see lots of the same types of booking to get to matches that you see in WWE that the AEW audience actively hates, but because it happens in AEW and Tony's nice and cuddly, it's fine. Yeah. And look, that is what fandom is all about, right? Biases and subjectiveness out the window when it comes to fandom. And so I don't really care about that. But when you come up with 2 shows against each other and you kind of compare and contrast, I think the WWE show has been built up like 5 times as well as this All Out show. And I have a theory about AEW pay-per-views. Like, I think Tony should create 6-week windows minimum, because to me, it feels like the ones that are spaced out a little bit better, that audience, it gives them a little bit of time to anticipate pay-per-views a little bit more. Like the, of course, All In was the we were just anticipating the hell out of that show. But this one, it's only been like 3 weeks or something, 4 weeks by the time this weekend happens.
It'll be
4. And I don't think people are even ready to see another AEW show based on the stories that were happening on television, which is why everything seems so thrown together at the last minute. And it's just like, it's too much and it's too fast and it's such a blur. But this always goes back to my point about AEW shows is, if the pay-per-views are good, the fans don't even really care how you got to the matches. They just remember the matches, which is the flip side of WWE, because you definitely remember the stories stronger in WWE if they're good, and the matches are little bumps in the road to kind of complete the story. So it's like a completely different strategy. And I was talking to Big Dave on Saturday night, and this was after Collision. So I didn't watch Collision. I think you watched Collision.
Yeah.
So we were talking about why there needed to be the Continental or the United titles story of, because I was like, how does Michael Oku qualify to be in a qualifier? Like, he's not even on their television.
No.
How does Anthony Bowens, who his own colleague says is a failure as a solo wrestler, how does he qualify for a qualifier? Like, none of that stuff.
And the Beast Mortos, who never wins.
And he's just there to get the pin. And he or Dorado, I'm guessing Beast Mortos is going to win. But like, why do we have that? And Dave said that it could just be a reaction to the narrative that AEW didn't tell stories. And so now everything is some sort of cockamamie story. And so, yeah, that's a Booker's rhythm thing. Like, Tony, I'm sure, will learn from scenarios and act in a different way. But to me, this is only me, I'm not speaking for anybody else, the build to this show has been average at best. And I think that is why, to answer my own question, that is why I'm more interested in the WWE show. Also, the thing about the WWE show for me, and this is not a lot of people are like me, I want to see the presentation on the ESPN being their first show. I want to see how ESPN feels about this relationship, how much they're going to push them, how much they're going to make this thing feel special. Now, WWE produces their own stuff, so this says ESPN will have nothing to do with the production, but they will have to do with the pre and post game coverage and how big they think this is to their audience, they are going to get lost in the sea of just college football, and the NFL is the big thing right now. And, baseball is getting into the playoffs, and WNBA playoffs are happening. So it's not like WWE is coming onto this network while there's nothing else going on. There's a ton going on. So how does ESPN allow WWE to stand out from the mix? That is what I'm interested in watching. So if I had sort of the gun to the head thing, I would watch the WWE show and not think twice about it for those reasons. But, I'll watch both. You'll watch both. And I'm sure we'll probably think, match for match, the AEW show will probably be a little bit better. Stories and hype and moments will probably be the WWE show. But at the same time, there's going to be things that I'm super frustrated in the WWE show, like how long are we going to wait between matches? What are going to be some of the rhythms of these matches? Same with the AEW show. How many of the same spots am I going to see throughout all of these 20 matches? And but they won't have the time thing. But how long is Tony going to stretch out this show to where it doesn't need to be stretched out just so he can compete? There are going to be things that I'm frustrated with on both shows already knowing going in, but I think I would, just for curiosity's sake, choose the WWE show.
I wanted to say something about what you were talking about with stories and AEW, and this is what frustrated me, is that they were telling stories to get to certain matches. Like, I thought that they've been building Tekla up really well, and we talked about this last week, and it was even the last two shows they've done angles to make you want to see Tekla versus Tony one-on-one, and yet the match they're giving you is a four-way. And the reason being, I assume, is because they don't want to beat Tekla yet. So they're going to put Chris Statlander and Jamie Hayter in that match, and one of them will probably take the pin, and then they'll do Tekla and Tony later. Or Tekla is just going to move on to something else. And then with the Bucks and Brodito, the Bucks won this match that both teams were in last week on Dynamite. Everyone assumed, oh, okay, we're just going to do Bucks against Brodito for the titles. That would have made total sense. That would have been a good story. And instead, they come up with this cockamamie four-way ladder match.
To use my word.
Which, I mean, and the stupid thing about that is they blew past this so fast. Like, I didn't even, I heard that there's going to be a four-way ladder match. I didn't realize they were doing qualifying matches to get into it. Someone brought it up in our Discord. It was so fast. It was Excalibur, blah, 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 and then they did a video package where, bing, this team, that team, this. It was 2 minutes with 8 teams. So,
that great Kip Sabian Luchasaurus team.
Yep.
Got in.
Oh, I'm sure they talked about it. I remember Juice.
The same team, by the way, that Luchasaurus was actively working against when they wrestled.
Yeah.
Christian and
and they'll probably be the ones that, well, no, I guess there's no fall. So, whoever's going to win the belts are going to win the belts.
But they won't. Maybe they won't even be in the match, because I imagine.
They're not. Yeah, they're not going to win. Yeah, it's going to be.
They face Jet Speed.
I can't remember. I think the one match that wasn't like a foregone conclusion is like the Bang Bang Gang against Josh Alexander and Hechicero.
No, it's actually the Bang Bang Gang are facing the Bucks.
Oh yeah, they're not going to win. So
I'll pull it up right here.
Alexander and Hechicero are the ones that I think are going to be the fourth team.
I have my notes from Observer Radio when I talk about it. So it's the Bucks against the Gun Club. So Juice Robinson and Austin Gunn. The Luchasaurus and Kip Sabian against Jet Speed, and then Top Flight versus Josh Alexander and Hechicero.
Top Flight. Yeah.
I mean, you would get them in because they would add to the craziness of that match, but I kind of worry about Dante Martin.
They're not going to be in the four-way. It's going to be Josh Alexander and Hechicero.
You could have you could do something to get them in, to give them a little bit of a bump, because they definitely need something, right?
They're a lost cause. I mean, remember Scorpio Sky? They brought him back. He got all that fanfare, and then they put him in the Sky Flight team, and he's on like Collision in backstage segments. They're not even wrestling anymore. I feel bad for those guys, but they're dies cast. And then I was watching, they had that segment on Dynamite where the Bucks were in catering, and they had all these people at these high school lunch tables, and I'm counting all the wrestlers that are being paid 6-figure contracts to sit there and eat food, not wrestle.
What about Moxley just putting his feet on the table and everyone's
Yeah.
scurrying.
That was funny. But those are all production people.
Mhm.
The actual wrestlers just sat there and ate their food, and they didn't. I think they didn't want Tony to notice that they were still getting paychecks.
It's funny you mentioned that. Like I heard a story of like the early days of AEW. And I have no idea if this is true, but the idea was like Ross saw like Jim Ross saw some of the people who were actually like on the payroll and was like just like, who are these guys? Like
I had a spreadsheet somewhere, and it's got like because minimum salary for All Elite is like 6 figures, so they have like over 200 people under contract. Like there's some names that you would be shocked. Anthony Ogogo is still he still shows up in ROH every week. He's in Shane Taylor's corner doing nothing.
So Big Dave, I don't remember if it was Friday or Saturday. Like this whole weekend was a blur for me, but he had said that he believes that there's like a PR campaign to kind of put over Tony Khan, the boss. And it wasn't really only about Tony, but just like raise the promotion, because they get dissed so often by the other side. And so I was like, oh, I need to start paying attention to that, because like they've been doing a lot of media for this weekend. And then I saw this morning Tony Storm just putting over Tony Khan, like he, just in an incredible way. So good for them, man. They need to they need to have that good PR.
Hey, I would do that too if I worked there. Like, he pays well, and
He's nice dude.
And I mean, Tony Storm, of all people, like if anyone's going to put him over, it's going to be her.
She used the word obsessed, which is funny.
Oh yeah,
because whenever I hear,
she obsessed with him, or he's obsessed?
No,
with
she's saying that he's obsessed with AEW and with wrestling.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah,
which is great for your boss.
Yeah,
you want him to be that, and it just reminds me of like my early days in tech. I was in an interview one time, and the CEO, who actually is now a friend of mine, he was a very early CEO. And so why am I interviewing? I'm in, looking for a customer support job, and why am I interviewing with CEO? I don't know. That's how we did it back then. And so he looks at me and he goes, "Are you obsessed?" And like, he didn't say what about. He just open-ended question, "Are you obsessed?" And I had to do like a 2 Mississippi, and just thinking like, what's the strategy for this question? Like, of course you have to say yes, but how do you say yes? How do you show obsession in your answer? So it's just funny. Like, you couldn't get away with doing that today. It's not really a good question, but it just reminds me
of how people in NXT used to talk about Triple H, like back in the day, like in the mid 2010s. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, good for them. I'm glad that everybody's happy. I'm glad a lot of people are making money. Like, don't get me wrong, and I'm a fan of both companies. So,
and even if people who are AEW fans think that when you're critical of it, that you wish their downfall, 100% the opposite. I want them to be the best and biggest company they could possibly be. Like, that is what my
100%.
that is how hopeful I am. And maybe dealing with their hardcore fans will be even more difficult. But at the same time, like, that's what's best for wrestling, is for AEW to be the biggest and the best. So even in being critical, like, a lot of the show is not for me. I was never an ECW guy. So when I see all this stuff that really excites, the ECW fan, or, oh, I remember when I was 15 and I was watching ECW. Well, that was never me. So that stuff does not really, it doesn't get me excited. It's
everyone
the smart stuff.
Jerry Lynn, and you're like, okay.
I'm like, oh, Mr. JL.
Yeah. My buddy's like, oh, the WWF light heavyweight champion. Cool.
Okay, let's move on. That is going to
right.
be the big show this weekend, and we're figuring out what we're going to do as a network to cover both. So depending on when you watch stuff, you can let me know if you're.
I'll try to get on some of it. I'll be watching them both, the same day. So
okay, let's move on to WWE officially announced that they're going to have WrestleMania 2027 is going to be in Saudi Arabia. Now, we knew this was coming. They cannot, in their business sense, in their business practices, in their DNA, they cannot turn down the kind of money that they are being offered to have a WrestleMania be in Saudi Arabia. So that was a very like no-brainer, like news. Like I wasn't surprised in the least, though I could see why some people were very frustrated. I could see why some people like it. Every time WWE works with Saudi Arabia, it just brings up that story again and again and again. And my question to you is, we're still a year and a half out.
Mm-hmm.
By 2027, are we, and I'm using the collective we, not us necessarily, are we as wrestling fans going to be even more sports washed than we are today? And is it going to be less of a story in 2027 than it is right now when they just rip the Band-Aid off?
I mean, I think, yeah. Although I do think that the people that are making noise about it now are still going to be making just as much, if not more, noise about it in 2027. But the further we get away from, the murder of the reporter and just, the fact that they're taking this money to begin with, and all the sports are doing it. You got golf, you got basketball, you got Premier League soccer, auto racing, everybody, boxing, all the big boxing matches. Well, not all, but most of the big boxing matches are over there. Or sponsored by them. Like we just had one this weekend, right? That was, even though it was Mexican Independence Day, wasn't it sponsored by Riyadh Season? Like, so it's the whole. It's to the point now where you don't even really even realize it. Like you see these logos and you're like, oh, you kind of feel icky, but then you just, well, if I'm gonna watch, I'm gonna watch. So I think that that aspect of it is never going to go away. And as we get further and further away, for most people, it's going to be less and less of an issue. But I do think that the fact that they are, quote unquote, taking WrestleMania, that is, to me, that's the more interesting talking point, because I'm seeing and hearing a lot of people complaining. But when I really look at the people that are complaining, it's the same people that complain about everything with WWE. And when I look at the actual people that go to shows and watch shows, I don't know if it's as big a deal for them, as the people that are paying this money for these tickets, the people that are watching the show weekly. Whereas the people that maybe go to Mania weekend so they can see the indie shows, those are the people that are upset. The wrestlers,
That's kind of a
it's a
smaller number of
very
people,
small
though.
number,
Yeah.
but they make a lot of noise. So like
Yes.
that's what I'm seeing. And then even the companies, it's like, oh, WWE, like, well, look at what they're doing to these poor companies. It's like they have no obligation to GCW or Defy or, God bless those companies. They put on great shows and it's a lot of fun to go to Mania weekend and see 11 shows in 3 days. But it's not WWE's obligation to do that. And in fact, for a while, they were actively trying to not let them do that. And then finally, the last few years, they just said, screw it, just have your shows. We don't care. But now it's like, okay, now we're going to go to Saudi Arabia and you're not coming. So if they want to do that, they can do it on SummerSlam weekend or Royal Rumble weekend or just make their own weekend. But yeah, so but in terms of the actual sports washing, yeah, I guess to get back to your original question, I do think the more time passes, the less, and this is by design, the less we think about it. And I feel bad about that, but it's just reality.
So the other part of this is, do you think that Tony Khan should try and create something that would benefit what you're just talking about, which is that
Mm-hmm.
traveling wrestling fan? It could get them some good PR. The anti, sports washing, that you don't need to, because AEW is not going to do business with them, and thus they're going to cater to these American fans who are missing out on WrestleMania. I thought it was an interesting idea, and
Mm-hmm.
I talked to Big Dave about this as well. It's going to have to be something that you really, really think about for sure, because what you don't want is you don't want those companies going like, we have this small relationship with WWE, and if we create this relationship with AEW, does WWE flip on us? And thus, maybe we don't do this AEW thing. So I think that would be the flip side. But I did think it was an interesting idea.
So you're talking head to head?
I don't know if head to. I mean, that would be the biggest bang for the buck, right?
Yeah,
But
because I mean, they already have All In, which is their WrestleMania. So you could, I mean, could be either Tony reaching out to these companies and saying, "Hey, if you want to have your Mania weekend, we can call it All In weekend, and you can come. We'll advertise your shows on our shows, and you can use our wrestlers, and and that they could do that. But then, like you say, a GCW, for instance, clearly is working with WWE. They have people go to the Bloodsport shows and even some of the other shows. Natty's on these shows all the time. Karrion Kross just showed up. I don't know if he's under contract with WWE or not. I suspect he is. He was just on their homecoming show. Matt Cardona is with TNA in them, and so they got a relationship there. So yeah, you're taking a chance of destroying that relationship. But then again, the WWE relationships are pretty one-sided anyways. So maybe there's no
but there's
real.
always that idea that you have to be in good standing with them,
Yeah,
because what if they call?
yeah,
What if they for that one time, they need something, and if we don't cater to them and kiss their ass, then they're not going to call us. This is our possible opportunity. Like, there's always that. And
yeah,
I see it, you would think from this local perspective, right? Like, in the Bay Area, I don't really go to any of the indie shows anymore because APW, which is Marcus Mack's company, like they don't run anymore. They haven't run really. But I still see, like, Marcus Mack directly, if WWE is in town and they need somebody to do something, they'll call him up and go, "Hey, we need somebody to do something with Baron Corbin." That was the last one that I can think of. I think
yeah.
he got like a beer spilled on his head as a person in the crowd for Baron Corbin. And he's game because he likes when he gets to do stuff with WWE, but B, like, it's a great perk for him as a local wrestling promoter that he's in their cell phone, he's in their
Hmm.
contacts. And so I completely get it from that perspective. And so if AEW was kind of bigger than they are now, then maybe you don't have to worry about it as much. But I think they're still, they're still quite a bit smaller than WWE, especially in the minds of people who are in the business. But then, maybe there are some companies that would not just do anything with WWE. I don't know if those people exist, but
Well,
maybe.
Defy is probably one of them. I don't see them. They don't really work with WWE, and they definitely work with AEW. There's probably a few others.
So
Um,
maybe you could find those
yeah,
companies who you don't have to be worried about,
yeah.
and you do your own little thing and you run it, and then you do a star cast at the same time.
Revolver's a pretty big one. Sammy Callahan's company, and him and Mox are good friends. So,
Yeah.
you
So
know,
maybe that might be the move.
yeah, and yeah, but it's not going to be the same. But I mean, for those fans, it'll be great. So the key is, can you recreate what you had this year at All In next year? And that's a big question because I mean, well, they're going to be in UK for All In, so you can't do it there. You'd have to have a second like All In type show.
Mhm.
But maybe it's All Out, maybe it's Double or
Well,
Nothing.
that's what I'm saying. You could
Yeah,
create something
yeah.
around WrestleMania weekend if you wanted. Like,
See,
maybe even going the day before,
yeah, heads
or
up, or even though same weekend. I think that's gonna be tough because your media coverage is gonna be all WWE that week.
but who's going to cover them
Everybody.
other than the wrestling media? I
Who's gonna
guess maybe
cover who?
ESPN.
AW?
No, WWE.
Yeah, like everybody. It's
No,
WrestleMania.
ESPN will
Yeah,
go. They'll have
yeah.
somebody there. But
Oh, you
who
mean
else
who's
is
gonna?
going to go to Saudi Arabia?
Oh, there'll be some people that go. I mean,
I mean, I know I know the top boxing people go, but
who goes?
is
Who goes now? Like I don't really pay attention to that, but some people go, don't they? Like to
like
the
you're talking
Crown
about
Jewel and stuff.
real reporters?
Well, no, not real reporters,
I
but
don't think anybody goes to the Saudi
they
Arabian
don't go to
show.
AW shows either. So
Well, yeah,
like,
you'd have to
yeah,
do a PR blitz
yeah.
and really cater to
That's what I
them.
mean. Like, so
Right.
I think like all the attention's gonna be on WWE just because it's WrestleMania. So yeah, you're gonna get like your Denise's and your Sean Ross Sapps
Denise already
and
said
yeah, I
not
know
going to
she's not
Saudi
going,
Arabia.
and she would go to AW obviously,
Yeah.
and Sean Ross Sapp would go to AW and Michael Johnson and all the big names. Dave is going to stay home.
Yeah.
You know, Brian's going to talk about going and then end up staying home.
No, Brian will. This is the other thing that I talked to Dave about.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about how Dana White and in this TKO and to do with the boxing reporters, and the one Lance Pugmire who got turned down for his credential, and he's like a historical like boxing guy.
Wow.
And I was saying, well, Brian and I got turned down for WrestleMania credentials, like, and I'm not putting myself on that level, but Brian is kind of on that level in wrestling. You know, I'm kind of a standby, but for Brian to get turned down, like the only F4W or Wrestling Observer representative to get turned down to go to that show, it's pretty ridiculous too.
He paid, yeah, he paid like $200 for his ticket.
Yeah. So and maybe they knew that he would just go anyways. So they
well, probably, yeah. I mean, he had said like he'll go if he can get a good, you know, he wanted to go with people, and you know, so if he could get tickets, and that's kind of the way I am too.
Like, I would be the exact opposite of that. Like, and let's say, like, the reason why I wanted to go to WrestleMania wasn't to be in the press box, wasn't to cover the show. I would have talked about the experience. I wanted to see how that whole thing worked. I wanted to see the PR engine of how the press and stuff worked with WWE, because that's the only reason I was even interested. And I even said I would have probably found a way to leave before the main event started, so I wouldn't get locked out of, you know, getting out of there, because that's what they did one time, or not last year, but the year before, where they just locked people in the press box who were not allowed to go to the press conference. So, like, but as a standing member of the media, if I was not, I'm not saying that I am necessarily, but if I was, and I got turned down for a press credential, I would not have paid my own way to go in. I would have said, okay, I'm not going to give them that level of coverage because I didn't get a credential. So,
fair enough.
I
guess for Brian, he kind of has to.
Oh yeah, well, no, wrestling's different. He wants to watch the show. This is also his livelihood. He's not
and hang out with your friends and watch the show with your friends, and
for sure,
you know, that sort of thing. So he's going with a group of people. Like, I wouldn't sit in the stands by myself and watch it, but I would want to see the building. That was my main reason for wanting to go.
Okay, last thing, and we're gonna get out of
here.
Yeah. Andrade was released from WWE, sent home, which is not something that we see that much now in these days. We're not going to speculate on what happened, because I don't think there's enough information. I've heard some rumors. I think the rumors don't pass the sniff test for me. I'm hopeful that it's something not important at all. But the question is, for you, does AEW take him back if he wants to work for AEW?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so he had some enemies, I would say, I guess, in AEW. Maybe not the worst enemies to have necessarily. And he definitely chose WWE over AEW when his contract came up. Just kind of like what we were talking about with these indie promoters. Like, the second WWE says, hey, we want you back, he was someone who was like, okay, I'm coming back. Also, he wanted to work on his marriage. I'm sure that was part of the decision. Tony Khan has all the leverage right now in this thing with Andrade.
Well, I think like the key is that he did business on the way out, and he left on good terms from what everyone can gather. So in that sense, he left the door open for a return. And you know, so I think Tony, like in when you're in a wrestling war, and Mexico is a very important market for both companies, and Andrade is a big deal down there, and especially in CMLL, who AEW works with. Andrade's got a long history there. LIJ was formed there. Well, they weren't LIJ, they were LI, you know, Los Ingobernables. So I do think that that he will, and he should. But like you said, he does have the leverage, so he doesn't have to pay a premium for it.
I think one of the rumors, and we're not even, it's just out there. I'm not saying this is a reason why he was fired. This is what is out there, which is that he didn't want to work for AAA because he's got some previous beef with AAA. Now, if that was the case for the reason for him being sent home, this is why it doesn't pass a sniff test for me, because if they are actively competing against CMLL and for CMLL eyeballs and for CMLL wrestlers, why would you hand deliver them someone that they can put into the main event immediately?
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's why I don't know that. And
not
maybe
only
they
that,
just don't think he's, I don't know, whatever it is.
he stood there on when they made that announcement. He was front and center of that group of Mexican wrestlers that were, like celebrating the purchase of AAA. So, I mean, clearly he was doing what he was told, but at that time, you have to think that they had plans for him with AAA. But I don't think he's made an appearance with them. He did have the tag team with Phoenix, and I thought it was funny that Phoenix was
Actually, really like that team, by the way.
Yeah, and Phoenix was on SmackDown, and Penta was on the AAA show. So, it's like you'd think, yeah, that might have been it. Like, they wanted him and Andrade. Like, again, I'm just speculating. Maybe they wanted Phoenix and Andrade to do something on that AAA show, and maybe he said no. Like, they did have that 4-way tag team match, right? That kind of seemed, some of the teams didn't really fit. So, Phoenix and Andrade probably would have been a good addition to that match. It was a great match, don't get me wrong, but I think it was, it was a 4-way. I think there was a couple different multi-people matches on that show, but yeah. So if he's happy, he's happy. I forwarded you a tweet, and he seems like he's happy that he left. So
I saw he posted on Instagram, I guess.
Yeah.
That, thank you WWE or
yeah,
that's
the one I sent you.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I am probably a bigger fan than most of Andrade because of that NXT run and because of Triple H. This was when I was really like into Triple H as a booker, because like, okay, he's thinking out of the box here. This is something that Vince McMahon would not do. He would do it with Alberto, but Alberto's also like 6'3" or whatever, not 5'9", like Andrade. So this was Triple H thinking out of the box. I really liked this. I thought he was a great performer. I thought he had such stage presence. The English wasn't quite as good, and it's gotten better since then, but still, he was one of the top performers in wrestling at that time.
It worked for the character, though. Like, the character that he was playing, the way he spoke, it worked. Kind of like that Tony Montana, like that, like not exactly the same because he's Cuban, but that sort of character. And then even in AEW, like, him trying to buy Darby, like, that's memorable. I wanted to go back to that.
I forgot about that until you just said that.
Oh.
All right. That's going to be it. We will do something next Monday, hopefully. Saturday is going to be a blur. Then football Sunday. I should be good by Monday. We'll talk about the shows, and then we'll talk about any of the news coming out of those shows. And then after, like, once this weekend is over, what is the next big thing for both?
No Mercy the next week.
Is that an NXT show?
Yeah.
Oh god. What about
and then like AEW's got a show in a month, October 18th.
Okay, so that's the Dynasty show? What
Dynasty,
is that show?
yeah.
Wrestle Dynasty or the Dynasty show.
And
then WWE would be Survivor Series, or is there something before Survivor Series?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought they had a show in
it's the Australia show.
Yes, the Crown Jewel.
Crown
Jewel. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't stop. The wheel keeps spinning.
Do you when's the next head-to-head, do you think?
Gosh, I don't
WWE couldn't get the Cena show to be head-to-head.
No, so it's not going to be that. I maybe Revolution.
You think they'll program something to go head-to-head?
Yeah, not a main roster show, maybe, but we'll see. Yeah, like it'd be tough. Maybe Saturday night's main event, obviously, probably. Like
the it's a Peacock show. It's a Peacock PLE, and that's how I would categorize these shows if I was WWE now. I would say
the NXTs? Yeah.
No, I would say the WWE Saturday night main events.
Oh, yeah. They're PLEs.
I would say they are not Saturday night main events as much as you thought. They are now PLEs. Like,
because you don't have to worry about commercials and all that, right?
Yeah.
You just do PLEs. And even for the NXT ones, like, if you're gonna go head to head with AEW, throw some main roster people on there.
I think they need to start doing that.
Yeah.
All right. That's it from here. For Paul, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.